Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scot McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
Is that what your market research is telling you right now?
So immediately I knew that because I posted it on a women's group and I had over 100 something likes.
Wow.
And within the month I had 400 email subscribers to a non-website, just wanting to know when it would launch.
All right, it's that time again. It's Scott, it's Wednesday, it's the Pitchwerks podcast. We're going to talk about presenting your ideas at work. And today we are talking to the founder and board president, the founder and CEO, the one, the only Erica Peterson, who was kind enough to come on into the Epicast studios today. And I'm going to tell you all about Erica once you agree to sign this contract in blood that you are going to finally go into iTunes and give us a rating. Okay. Point of fact, I can't present the contract. Let's just do it verbally. Anyway, 1 star, 2 stars, 5 stars. Tell people what you think and make sure a comment goes along with it. Do it one time. You'll never have to do it again. I will continue to nag you, though, however, because people sitting near you in the audience still haven't done it. With all of that said, Erica Peterson, Science Tots, a nonprofit, Moms Can Code, for-profit, 2 different organizations, 2 different ways of getting started. An interesting viewpoint. I know a lot of you sort of wrestle with this question. How do you get started and why? Do you pick one architecture versus another? So Erica's going to talk to us about that. Make sure you look for us on social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's a LinkedIn company page. And of course, there is pitchwerks.com. All of this can be found with PITCHWERKS. Yes, we spelled it wrong. We realize. Put the E in works. Find us there and just let us know what you think and what we can do for you. Any recommendations you have as far as topics, guests, what you want to do going forward. All of that is welcome. Come on in. The water is fine. Let's talk to Erica Peterson and see what happens next. All right, so we've got Erica Peterson, friend of the show, and honestly, one of the more popular podcast guests around town these days. Erica, how are you?
Good. How are you?
All right. So let me see if I can get this right. You are the founder and board president of Science Tots, which is a nonprofit for science and technology and engineering and mathematics for young ones. And then you are the founder and CEO of Moms Can Code, which we'll get into a little bit later in terms of expanding that idea. But that's right. That's who you are?
That's correct.
Fantastic. All right. So first of all, you've been kind of everywhere, right? You're making faces at me, which suggests that that's not true. But you and I both know that it's true. All of a sudden, you were just kind of hit the ground running, right? Or at least that's what it felt like to me. It was just like all of a sudden you were everywhere. And take that as a compliment. It is intended to be, because that's not easy to do. It's not easy to get above the noise level where somebody can notice the fact that you're just kind of you're in all these different conversations. So I guess the first question that I would toss your way is, how do you pick these projects? How do you know what it is that you want to work on? And how did you kind of decide to put that much energy and fuel into those projects?
So both have come about because I was looking for something and I couldn't find it.
Got it.
That's it.
So in Science Tots, you've got 2 kids of your own. You were looking for something for them to do or something to kind of work on with them education-wise?
I was looking for science activities to do with my then 2 and 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And at the Science Center and various other places, the starting age was 5 or 6.
Right.
And I didn't want to drop him off. I wanted to work on something with him. So we started doing things at home. I started posting pictures. Parents started asking me, how do we do this? And then I started teaching in church basements. And now we do festivals, and we'll be at Pittsburgh Maker Fair in October. We got a large grant to go set up a photonics display there.
And this is the stuff I'm talking about. You make stuff happen. Right?
Yes.
And I know that some of these things are very Like you are a striving kind of a person. You want your projects to do very well. So you kind of rolled your eyes, a couple of times here. You're like, oh, I don't know if I've really accomplished that much or whatnot. But getting to the point where you have that presence at Pittsburgh Maker Faire, right, it's a stretch goal for some people. And I know you think that there's a far further horizon that you want to get to and that you don't want to settle for where you're at. But please just, from some people's perspective, see that is a very significant accomplishment for a young organization. And then you had that huge tent. What was the event that you had the tent at over like 4th of July?
Yeah, on July 15th and 16th, we were at the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix.
Right.
And we were sponsored by the neighborhood Ford store for both days.
Now that's a nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay. How did you set that up?
So as a stay-at-home mom with zero income, I wasn't able to apply for a business credit card or, I wasn't going to ask my husband for money. So
Right.
I thought if I'm a nonprofit, that will help me ask for money when I'm a 501c3.
Yeah.
And I can bootstrap that way. And then at that point, I was teaching classes. So slowly but surely, people were paying a small fee to attend a class. So that's how we started.
Yeah. You just started doing.
Yeah, we just started doing. I didn't spend any time dwelling on it. I put it out there and it happened.
It's a hard thing, right? And a number of the people that have been on this show or have been sort of around the show have come to me particularly, and I'm not sure, I think I know why, but I'm not 100% sure why. A lot of them are moms, right? And they get this pressure, if there's any education, if there's children involved, where they're like, you have to be a nonprofit. And I'm a for-profit person. Like I've never lived in that nonprofit charity space. I have donated to charity. I have volunteered for charity. But the idea of working within that framework, I wouldn't know how to set it up. And it seems like a very difficult stack of paperwork to complete, right? I'm not sure how I would even do it. So you may not, I don't know. Did you have any sort of pressure, like you should take this in a nonprofit direction? Did anybody say anything like that to you?
No.
Wow.
No.
Okay. So you kind of just made that decision on your own.
Yeah.
Then. And you thought it was easy.
I filed myself for
Did you?
both. Yeah.
How about that?
You
didn't even take an attorney to...
No.
You kids and your internet.
I just went for it. And that's the story behind most things in my life. I just go for it.
You just did it.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah, because it's daunting. It feels like a lot more than that.
Yeah. I'm not afraid of failure, I guess is the real, what it truly is about me.
That's a hell of a sentence.
Well, yeah.
No, I mean, a lot of people want to be that. I don't know how many people reach to the point where they can say it honestly, right?
Well, I had nothing to lose. I was already a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I wasn't making any money. What was going to happen? I wasn't going to make
What's the worst thing that happens? I don't make money?
Any, yeah.
That's already happening
That's
right
already
now.
happening, yeah.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I still, though, the nonprofit thing, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm wired wrong. It just feels like, I don't know, like I'm under the magnifying glass. Like I was very worried about being under the magnifying glass because the lovely and talented Mrs. Max Haggart used to have a drama school. And she says, like, everybody wants me to make this thing into a nonprofit. And I'm sitting there going, don't do that.
Well, it is very difficult because you have a board to answer to. They are the governing body of your organization. You do not own your organization that you started.
Okay.
So I don't own Science Tots.
So maybe it's my need for control. Maybe that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you do need a board if you're going to have that
But
501c3.
You have to be okay with the idea that you've started something, and if you are lucky enough to move into the role of executive director, that you might not be the executive director in 5 to 10 years, and then you might have to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And, you started it and you've worked really hard to set this thing up, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs, the board is who is in charge.
Right. And it's a community good, and it can't be taken advantage of by one person who thought they were going to pull a fast one.
Right.
Right. And I mean, that all makes sense. But I do have a bit of a control problem, right? If I'm going to pour my blood into the machine, I want to make sure that I'm in charge and I own the machine and I've got the title on it on file.
And I think that's an issue for a lot of people, and a lot of there's a thing called founder syndrome about that's what the nonprofit unicorns say about the founders who never want to leave, who can't give up that control and micromanage people. And I never want to experience founder syndrome. I never want to be that person.
The person who stayed at the party, past
a little
your
too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about that. I'm going to have to check that out. I mean, I've seen, I think, what you're talking about, where it's like, okay, it evolved past your ability to manage it, and we really like you. You're super smart, but get out. Mm-hmm. Or take that emeritus desk over there, which is much smaller than your old desk, right? But then you did Moms Can Code.
Yes.
Now, this is a for-profit, so you are really looking at this in both directions. Like, you are a better judge sort of like which was easier to file and which one is easier for you to navigate in. And obviously your own personality figures into this too. So I'll warn everybody at home, your mileage may vary on this, but tell me about starting that. Like, again, you were looking for something and you couldn't find it?
Yeah. So through Science Tots, I had taught I had taught parents in different scenarios at visiting schools and church basements, and I had developed a rapport with parents. And I had at times offered computer science classes for parents and children, and no one would show up.
Okay, that seems problematic.
Very problematic. So in the mom groups, I would ask, hey ladies, what's it going to take for you to come out and learn how to code with me? And this is good for your child, et cetera, et cetera.
What was driving you to even keep picking at it? Like, I think a lot of people would have given up. Like, why did you find it to be compelling to keep working at it if it didn't feel like you were getting a whole lot of buy-in from these other people at first?
Well, when I was pushing for it with Science Tots, and I still am, it's because there's this aversion to letting your child spend time in front of a screen.
Got it.
And I've seen that at recent festivals. Why I have coding apps loaded on iPads, and why immediately there's this. Why is my child going to sit in front of an iPad? We're outside. Screen time is bad, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Again, let me.
Your mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary, but I've seen my own son, for example, move from level to level in certain coding apps, and I'm impressed by it. And if I didn't allow him the time to figure it out, he'd still be on level 1. Mm-hmm. So I think that also when I go to events with my son and he's at, where were we recently? At TrueFit.
Yeah.
And he sees where the programming happens, he got excited by that. He got to see where the coders.
So you took your son to TrueFit Solutions and he got to see people working on the things he's working on.
Yeah, and that was exciting for him. And he left that saying, I want to code when I get older. And that's exciting for me. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to, what I aspire for him to be, or that's necessarily true. But the fact that this child has made this connection with what he's doing on this app as a game with what people do in real life as a job. And I think that's a really great connection for a 4 or 5-year-old to make.
You need to help decide with your child who they're going to be.
Yes.
And if you think that technical step-by-step programming methodology will help them to do problem solving, then by all means, count that screen time as good. So here's what I want to know. Moms Can Code.
Yes.
It's a little bit harder maybe as a concept for people just to pick up. Do you have a pitch you use right now?
We are an online community that connects moms who are interested in learning how to code by providing them with opportunities to connect online, offline, offering learning resources, and providing real-life inspiration.
That was a very, very nice pitch. It's almost like you've given it before.
Yeah.
No, that's great. When I heard it, I heard a little bit of it's a good bit whatever you want. Is that what you're trying to convey? Is that it's what the user wants? Absolutely.
So yesterday, someone asked me a question and they said, well, I'm not a mom. And I said, you're absolutely welcome to become a member and join us in the conversations. And what about dads? And I said, we actually do have some dad members.
Right.
And somebody else asked me, do I need to be pursuing a career? And I said no, because for myself, I started wanting to learn how to code because I wanted to connect and be able to have conversations with my son. He is learning how to code in kindergarten.
Right.
This is what we do now.
Stuff.
This is how we spend our time now. And I want to be able to talk about it.
So I'm a little bit older than you, but we were absolutely bathed in TV. And that's not a criticism of my parents. That's just a statement of fact. We were just bathed in television, right? The idea that, there was sports and the other things too, right? But in terms of our screen time, going back to that kind of trope, right? It was Saturday morning cartoons and it was A-Team, Knight Rider, right? Like the night prime time shows that you would watch, back in the 80s, right? You could talk about MacGyver after the episode, I suppose, right? You could connect with that, be like, what do you think MacGyver found in that telephone that made it so that he was able to escape the jail cell? But it wasn't as interactive as what you're describing, which is sort of you're talking to them about something that you're learning and they're learning at the same time, and that's the goal. The other thing I noticed about your pitch, though, is that you de-emphasized what I will call isolation. You may not want to call it that, right? You were moving it away from this idea that I think a lot of people have about online learning or work at your own pace learning, right? You were stressing the community and the fact that there are real humans that are sort of going through this program with you. Is that because you're getting feedback that people are really looking for a community? Like, is that what your market research is telling you right now?
So immediately I knew that because I posted it on a women's group and I had over 100 something likes.
Wow.
And within the month I had 400 email subscribers to a non-website, just wanting to know when it would launch. Those
are the hardest ones to get to. Those first few hundred people on the email are the hardest ones to get.
And I knew that was a good thing because of my experience with Science Tots. You learned that already. Yeah, our email list is still not up to 400, and that's not for lack of trying.
That's incredible. That's actually an interesting comparison point because they have a head start. Science Tots is what, about a year older?
A year and a half. Yeah. So Moms Can Code just started in June.
Yeah.
Of this year. We're in September.
And you just jumped ahead to 400 like it was nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Moms Can Code has a curriculum that they work from.
No.
They do not have any sort of set curriculum.
No.
Where then do they find their common points?
So the content is created by the moms and our guests who are women in tech or people in tech who want to contribute to the community. The moms who are members who are also creating content can earn commission by referring members.
So if I'm a mom and I just want to consume the content then, is there a monthly fee? How does that work? What's the structure for that?
So there's 2 levels. The first level is for the person who's just starting out, who wants to interact with other moms to learn more. I don't have to advertise any particular boot camp or particular program because once the women start talking to one another, or women or men start talking to one another, that information just comes about. They start talking about what's worked for them and not worked for them, or what website they've tried, what app they've tried. And then the second level, level 2, so level 1 is $5 a month, level 2 is $9 a month, and level 2 is more for the person who is already at the stage where they have a portfolio and that person is looking for work. So that person gets to have access to different material, for example, resume templates, portfolio reviews, and live chats with execs in HR at tech companies.
Right. And you're running this now. Still, you're the chief cook and bottle washer, right?
So I have 5 independent contractors.
Look
right
at
now.
you!
Teacher by day.
Yeah, for real, right?
Yeah, no, really, teacher by day. That's how all of this is getting financed. I think that there's this big misconception that if you're a startup owner, that you're rolling in dough and you're living this life, and
It is kind of that way. They make it sound like you're some sort of like rock star.
Yeah. And that's not the case. There's a lot of the work began. So I went from concept to launch in under 2 months.
Yeah.
And the work began at the launch party. That is when membership became live, and I started to sweat because I was wondering that night, are people going to sign up? Is anyone going to pay for this?
Yeah.
And it turns out yes. But that's the night the work began. I wasn't at all nervous in the weeks leading up to that, but this is now I have to prove myself.
Right.
And it's not going to happen overnight.
The worst thing that can happen, legitimately, the worst thing that can happen is that you learn and move on. Some of the most successful people who have sat in that chair have said, I move fast, I learn a lot, I wouldn't change anything.
Right.
So you're right back to where you said you were with Science Tots, where I was like, look, I don't really have that much to lose. There's not that much at risk. And obviously, yeah, you've got money in it now. You've got independent contractors working with you. You've got those kinds of things. But honestly, just look at the education you picked up between the mailing list at Science Tots and the mailing list at Moms Can Code. There's way more where that came from, and yes. It's going to be interesting. Who do you look up to?
Oh. I can't pinpoint anything in particular. I listen, I read a lot. Mm-hmm. I study what other startups, other companies have done and don't do.
Yeah.
I legitimately sit down, I read, I'm constantly consuming to, if I can save myself from some heartache and learn from someone else's mistakes,
right.
I want to do that.
You're a risk mitigation person.
For now.
Until it gets to the point where there's so many fronts to fight on.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So as long as I can, yes.
Okay, we'll prioritize a few of them.
And then you have to let it go.
And you do.
But that's part of the learning experience and part of going from an idea in your head to having a team of people and translating what you want for them to do. And then, giving them ownership of something. That's important because, you want the people around you to love what they're doing. And learning that alone that's a learning curve.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Delegation came hard to me, too. I mean, it was like, first thing was you got to let go. Second thing is you got to let the right things go.
Right. Right.
Third thing is now that you've let them go, you've got to give those people feedback you can't just assume that people knew what you meant. Exactly. They can't read your mind.
And then procedures and operations come into place, and we're very small still. So this is all happening today, right now.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out. We're writing that manual every single day.
There's a little bit of adrenaline, and it makes it a little bit fun.
It's so much fun.
Let me ask you a different question. What did you study before you came out into the world of high speed, low drag, being cool in startup land?
So I graduated from West Virginia University with a degree in animal science and nutrition.
Okay.
And then I worked in a laboratory and in a cancer research center. And then I studied cytotechnology. That's a year-long program at UPMC.
How about that? Cyto as in cells.
Yes. Very good.
Root words. They will get you through life. Study your root words, kids. I'm telling you. What do dads not understand about what moms want to get out of this?
So as a married woman who's seen her husband, his career skyrocket, while I was, for the past, few years after having children, I've kind of been stagnant. Not truly, right? I've done some really cool stuff, but career-wise, there is nothing for me to show my pay has increased.
Right. Right.
So that
the usual metrics are out the window.
Yeah, that means everything. So while he has gone up in income, right, and position, I have stayed the same despite all of my talents.
Right.
Because at certain points, I've only been able to make enough to cover the cost of full-time childcare. So often the choice...
Which is ridiculous.
Right. So often the choice... So as a laboratory technician right out of college, I was making $30,000.
Right.
Daycare at that time was $190 a week.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you have 2 children... it ranges from $1,770 to $2,300 per month.
Right.
In biology,
so basically, you're working for free.
Right. So in biology, or as a lab technician, lab manager, or even as a early childhood teacher, I'm just covering the cost of sending my children to childcare. And when that happens, you make the choice, well, I rather than spend time with them. So often there's this back and forth of, what do I do here?
Yeah. My wife and I like to call it guilt. And trust me, we went through these races. Our kids are older now. We have less of it, right?
Yeah.
But back when we were where you are, in terms of how old the kids are, there's no escaping it. When we were younger and dumber, we used to have arguments around this. And I'm not going to pretend like I still understood. Understanding is a very strong word, right? Mm-hmm. But everyone brings something to the party, and it's easy to feel as though you don't bring enough when the metrics don't seem to be on your side. Earnings, hours worked, fancy clothes.
Yes.
Right. There are all of these different, and we talked about all of this stuff at various levels of frustration and, again, like sadness, and like you go through all those things,
Yeah.
But I want dads to understand too, right? Yeah. I kind of feel like I had to get older, and I had to get to a point where my kids didn't really need me to understand anymore, or my wife didn't really need me to understand anymore. Mm-hmm. It was then when I figured it out.
Right.
Like I learned everything after it was too late. Mm-hmm. So we paid the dues. We had the hard lessons.
Yeah.
Luckily, she's very hard-headed and wouldn't, she's like, no, I'm not giving up on you, even though you're an ass. Anyway, as far as the independent contractors, the way that you're structuring things going forward from here, it sounds like you are going to bootstrap from here on out.
Yeah.
And you're very comfortable with that decision. Have you given any thought to any other types of funding, angel funding, those kinds of things? Or are you just in it to win it now?
I have thought about different ways. But at this point, I'm not comfortable giving up any equity. I don't know what it's worth. I'm
glad to see that I'm not the only one with control issues. That's fantastic. Good. I don't feel bad then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it's worth. We just started Sunday was 3 months.
Yeah. Well, but...
Yeah.
But a lot of people start off with an idea of, I want to be Kmart, right?
Yeah.
I want to be Amazon. I want to be the convenience store. Like they set a goal for where they want to fit into the, right? Like I want to be ubiquitous, or I want to be the discount retailer that you can touch something at, or I want to be the convenient option that's like right around the corner, but super high price. Like everybody kind of has their goal. And then from that goal, you say, okay, well, if you're going to be Amazon, you need a giant server farm. If you're going to be the, discount retailer, you've got to have just acres and acres of floor space, right? If you're going to be the convenience person, then you have to have a lot of presence in a lot of places. And that sort of guides where the money discussion goes next.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, it's like, well, once you kind of understand where you're trying to go with it, you figure out how much money you need. And when you figure that out, you have a cry, and then you try to figure out how to get to that money, right?
Yeah. I'm going to bootstrap as far as I can.
Good for you. But for $5 a month, I think it's just super valuable. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially for the community and just being able to talk to somebody else, that on its own, a social club,
Yeah.
Even if you never learn anything, you can't find a keyboard on a laptop.
It's a cup of Starbucks a month.
Yeah. And I know people who spend a lot more in Starbucks than that. You've got a $1 million opportunity on your hands here. we wish you all the success in the world. Thanks for being such a great friend of the show. You've recommended some great guests to us because, again, you're cool and we're the Square Business Show that happens here in the Epicast Network.
I'm rolling my eyes. No one can see.
I wish people could see every time you rolled your eyes at me today. Erica Peterson, Science Tots, Moms Can Code. Thank you so much for coming into the Pitchwerks podcast today.
Thank you.
All right, that's the end of the ride. Thank you to Erica Peterson, Science Tots, and Moms Can Code. Please do us a favor and support everything that she's working on. It was really nice of her to come in and support the program. Hopefully you can do the same for her. The only other thing then I guess we have to figure out is when we're all going to get together again. Let's call it 7 days from now, and same place that you found us this week. Enjoy the next week, and we'll catch you on the other side with a brand new show.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com. pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, pitchwerks.